Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael Collazo and Jeff Walston.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Collazo, here with my co-host, Jeff Walston. How's it going, my friend?
It is going fabulous. Finalized a busy week and watching this quick snow that we had here in Louisville, Kentucky quickly melt like it always does, seems like. But what about you, my friend? How's it going over there?
It's going great. Just finalizing everything on a Friday, trying to get ready for the weekend. And I'll probably be working on some stuff this weekend too. It's been relatively busy recently. So just trying to catch up for the following week and make this 2022 the best year ever, as we always should try to make it. So, but speaking of a great conversation, I loved the conversation we had with Aviva today. I mean, she's a phenomenally impressive individual. She's the CEO of the Warehouse Hotline. And also very active on social media, particularly TikTok, which is a media platform that I've been following and trying to incorporate into my routine as well. And I've definitely seen the initial power of it. And she's taken it to another level where she has, hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok through her value add content that she's created pertaining to the commercial real estate business. But really throughout this podcast, we focused on a variety of different topics. But, we first talked about some of the early struggles that she faced as she was looking to scale her business. I mean, again, the commercial real estate business, in particular on the brokerage end, can be quite a difficult business to get into and get started with. And so she kind of talked about some of the ways that she was able to overcome some of those early struggles. We talked a little bit about the Warehouse Hotline and how she's utilized that brand to be able to, scale her operations within the business. And we also talked about a variety of different things pertaining to the future of the industrial market, where we see it going, some of the things you need to consider as if you're a business owner as you're looking at industrial space in order to occupy. And then we did heavily focus on the social media side. We talked about, her efforts on TikTok and various other social platforms as to, how to create content that a lot of people consume and you can generate business through it, because she mentioned how TikTok is a geolocal, platform, meaning that all your content is first distributed locally to those individuals within your, geographic location, and then it spreads out more nationally. And in her case, she's been able to build a solid presence on the platform and been able to leverage it in order to find opportunities, not just on the business end for herself, but also for other people within her network. So it was just a phenomenal discussion. Again, I'm big into personal branding and digital marketing. And again, this is a jam-packed value add episode pertaining to those two topics. So Jeff, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Know that she just radiates with enthusiasm about social media branding, and I want to emphasize that for sure. So particularly in the commercial sector, that Aviva just she loves it. I mean, and you'll be able to pick that up through just listening to the episode and or watching it on YouTube. You'll definitely see it. She just lights up when it comes to it. So I think this is definitely one to listen to and watch, especially follow Aviva and see where she takes her commercial presence in Denver, Colorado. So I'm excited to have you guys take to listen. So
definitely. No, and I can't agree more. It is a value-packed episode. And also but I'd be remiss for saying we do greatly appreciate all your guys' support via the podcast. Yeah. It's amazing the response we've been getting, in particular over the last several weeks, where we've been getting more and more people engaging with the podcast and downloads increasing as well. If you don't mind, and you could take a few seconds just to leave us a 5-star review. If you're listening to this in an Apple format, we would greatly appreciate it. And we've seen a significant uptick in our downloads as a result of that. Also, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to the channel, because it helps with the YouTube algorithm. I'm sure as more and more people can hear this message and learn about, the many facets of commercial real estate. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, I really want to dive into this episode because it is a phenomenal episode for you guys to listen to. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into the podcast. Well, welcome, Aviva. Great to see you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're happy to have you on.
Yeah, and Aviva's tuning in from Denver, the Mile High City. It's a beautiful city. I was there last year for a conference, and I've been to Denver several times. I actually trained in Denver from my previous role. It's a beautiful town. We got up to go hiking in Boulder too, and that's a unbelievable hiking opportunity there too. So if you're ever in Denver, definitely check it out. But welcome. We're really excited to have you, Aviva.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you reaching out, and I appreciate what you do for our community, because what you're doing is necessary. So very, very feel fortunate to be a part of it.
Oh, definitely. No. And we're going to dive into a lot of things. And we talked before we hopped on the recording regarding digital marketing. I think that is something that is very underutilized within our industry. And we're really excited to get your take on that strategy as well. So before we dive into the podcast, what we typically like to do is we like to learn a little bit more about the person that's across the table from us. So if you don't mind kind of sharing a little bit about your background, I think that'd be awesome.
Sure. I born and raised in Denver. I can't lie to you. I come from a commercial real estate family. I'm a third generation owner, broker here in Denver. Grew up anyway. I was in the music industry for like 10 years. But I was also in real estate, and I feel really fortunate. I learned a lot about digital marketing in the music industry and have been able to apply it to my commercial real estate career and brokerage, and as a result have found some fun in the sun and success in commercial real estate. I now have a commercial real estate brokerage called the Warehouse Hotline, which is a warehouse exclusive brokerage here in Denver, and we own, lease, and manage about 350,000 square feet of warehouses here in town. So run around warehouses, try to sell something once in a while. The market's crazy right now, and have fun along the way.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And you're right. The industrial market's absolutely crazy. A good friend of ours, Chad Griffiths, he's a commercial real estate broker in Canada, and he has a YouTube channel where he talks about the industrial market. And I mean, regardless of where you're at, not only just the United States, I feel like it's all across the globe, in particular if it's logistics focused, where you have, the high ceiling warehouses, expansive, huge warehouses that, maybe 30, 40 years ago weren't nearly as big as they are today. I mean, that's kind of the vogue thing right now. And it's the same in our market. I mean, it's crazy. Trying to find a warehouse space to be able to house some of these logistics businesses is next to impossible, in particular in certain, industrial parks around the city. So I'm sure that's the same way it is in Denver.
Oh yeah. They say that warehousing is like 96% sold out for 2022. And wow. They're not lying, because it's crazy. I remember maybe, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I was cold calling. I cold called this guy. I didn't realize who he was. And he's like, I have a 500,000 square foot warehouse I want to sell. So I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, this guy's got a 500,000 square foot warehouse he wants to sell. And my dad's like, where's this warehouse? And the whole point of the story, he was like, there's like 500,000 square foot warehouses in the country. Like, this is not a normal product. And now, that was 5 years ago, a 500,000 square foot warehouse it's normal. Mm-hmm. And so this landscape is changing rapidly. I call it the 3 C's: cannabis, e-commerce, and COVID have completely changed our market. And it's been a whirlwind, and I feel very fortunate to be able to watch it and get to transact it.
Oh, for sure. No. And I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. I mean, we're already still dealing with supply chain issues, and I don't think that's going to go away for a while, because if you think about it, when you compress the time frame, it's like a rope. It just takes a while for you to expand it until you get it leveled out. So I envision us being in a similar low supply environment probably for several more years until we kind of stabilize. So it's going to be an interesting couple more years.
Well, and they're not really building small product anymore. It doesn't make sense. So all they're building are these A-class, big box, mega warehouses. But where do the small businesses go? They go in small warehouses. So it's really interesting. It's already getting funky, but it's good for good for people like us.
Exactly.
So you said earlier that your family, your third generation, but you were working other places. So what made you just say, okay, I'm going all in commercial? Was it just like a family thing? They're like, well, I'm going to follow their footsteps. Or did you say, you know what, I actually found this interesting and I want to go in this direction? And if so, like, why? Can you explain?
You know, growing up, my mom was a dentist and my dad worked in real estate. You know, he worked in residential a little bit, but mostly commercial, and now only commercial. And I realized that my mom had to work with her back and she was working crazy hours. She never could come to anything with my school or whereas my dad had this flexibility in his life. And I really feel like I leaned into real estate because of that. However, I have just found that it's specifically commercial. It's really fun. It's very business oriented, right? Residential can be very emotional. I don't care if you look on my walls in my house. I don't hang anything. I do not care what anything looks like. Get me in a warehouse and let's sell it or lease it. So I just feel commercial real estate is really fun to transact, and I'm ridiculously lucky that it's our family business.
Oh, for sure. No. And that's ultimately what a lot of people want to do. I mean, again, the ultimate goal for myself, and I know for Jeff, is like, I would love my kids, future kids, to be able to be involved in the business, because I think it's a phenomenal industry that a lot of people don't know about. And I think using mediums like this to be able to disseminate information is going to enable more and more people to enter the business that, you know, maybe don't have a background in it, you know. And I think it's a good thing if you can, you know, build that pipeline as far as your offspring are concerned, to be able to, you know, build a business for the family, because I think that's what a lot of people want to do long term. So
yeah,
everybody wants to hear a story about how you came from nothing and this glamour story. And I'm not going to lie. I have to be transparent about my situation. It's a very common thing in commercial real estate to be generational. My grandparents survived Nazi Germany and immigrated to America and with nothing. And they, through real estate, built generational wealth. And that is a really powerful thing. And the opportunity to share that with your family is special. However, in commercial real estate, you don't have to have family. You don't have to have connections. You can get in. I agree. It is a largely gate-kept industry. And that's why I love talking about it on the internet, because there's so little information. But anybody can do it as long as you're good to pick up the phone and start dialing. You could do it. Anybody could do it.
100%. No, I couldn't agree more. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was pertaining to your starting within the business. And, you know, everyone, regardless of what their experience level is, goes through some struggles, whether that's, you know, struggling on the phone, whether that's, you know, struggling within meetings when you're dealing with clients. I mean, when I first started in the business, I mean, I had my broker, whenever I'd set some meetings and I thought there was a potential for a listing, he would come with me. I'd be like, hey, Paul, like, they could ask me some random questions. I have no idea what I'm going to say. So I want you to come along with me to be able to help me out. And so luckily I had that support to lean on. But what were some of the, I guess, you know, struggles you faced early on in your career as you started to kind of, you know, establish now what you have today?
It's the same struggle I face today. Real estate, there is so much to learn. There are so many facets. You can't take a course and learn it. You can't, this is not a college degree. You have to transact, put your foot in your mouth, do deals, and you're going to learn. And it takes a lot of time. I've been doing it for, I think, 6 years full time now, and I'm still baffled at how much I don't know. So it's the only way to combat that is to just get in the pit and do deals.
100%. And in listening too is a big one for me. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a room with someone and they just, you know, I think a lot of people feel like they have to talk in order for people to not feel like, they don't know what they're talking about. So, and that's in every setting. I've faced that in my own professional career prior to that. It's like people want so badly to showcase that they know something, when in reality, it's like, if you just stop and listen and really just say, even if you don't know something, you could always say like, hey, look, I don't know that right now, but I'm happy to get you the information that you need, and then become that person that brings the information to the table. I think that in and of itself presents a unique opportunity for people that people will gain respect for you, because people don't expect you to know everything about everything. It's impossible. You're always learning, you're always expanding your mind and growing, but they do expect you to take action and be proactive. And I think that kind of lends itself to what you're saying, is that as long as you're, consistent and proactive about what you're going to do, you can achieve success in the industry. So.
Right. And there's a few ways to go about that, right? A potential client or a client asks you a question, you don't know the answer. This is something I was discussing with a mentee recently. Do you make it up and lie, or do you tell the truth and just say, I don't know, I'll get back to you? You do not you do not lie. You do not make up a response. You're going to look way worse lying and making something up. Be forthright, be honest, and people respect that. People understand. And you're definitely going to learn it for the next time because of that situation.
I think in particular, both of you are pointing out is listening part, but also want to highlight like the question itself. Like, don't be afraid to actually ask the question, because that's what's going to start the conversation. But then just listen, ask the question and listen from that experienced person across the table. So earlier you were talking about your warehouse hotline. So I really want to kind of dive into that. And I want to know, like, who do you service? And then like, what exactly do you do within the warehouse hotline?
Sure. Yeah. So I made the warehouse hotline because I realized that there is 0.0 branding in commercial real estate brokerages internationally, right? It's like some old white dude's last name, some other old dude's white last name, a color, that's the brand. That's not a brand. And that's not how things work in the new day. So as a result, I made the Warehouse Hotline, which is a brokerage that I transact all types of property under the hotline, but the goal is to be the point of contact for warehouse management, leasing, and sales for now in the state of Colorado. So
nice.
That's awesome. Yeah. And the branding piece too, like you said, I mean, I don't know. We're going to dive into this a little bit later is it's a lot easier to, whenever you deal with like a personal brand, people need to be able to understand exactly what you do very quickly. So that's why I love the fact you named it the Warehouse Hotline, is because like, oh wait, I have a warehouse and now I can call the hotline if I have any questions or maybe I'm looking for space. I mean, I like the idea of you kind of branding it that way because again, it informs people about what you do very quickly and very efficiently. So that's a great name that you selected there. So
yeah, I appreciate that. I when it comes, I love branding. I'm obsessed with it. If I didn't go into real estate, I would have gone into marketing. And I originally made our company Sonenreich and Company, which is our last name and company. I just wanted to get something on paper and get the ball rolling. And I realized I was just being like everybody else, right? Cushman Wakefield. Like, who's Cushman? Who Wakefield? Who knows? Who cares? How do you remember it? Right? It's just this iconic old school brand. And I realized by doing the same thing as those people, I wasn't accomplishing anything. And so I quite literally went the exact opposite route to differentiate ourselves, and it works. And I get questions about it every single day. Like, who are you? What is this? People are shocked when they hear it. And that is the point.
Yeah. Well, being top of mind. I mean, in our industry, it's all about, being that one person that they think of. And I think having that differentiating piece, because I remember we interviewed Dan Lukowitz, who's a broker in Michigan, and he talked about how the entire commercial real estate industry, if you look at all the agents in the United States, there's only 50,000 agents compared to 1.1 million residential agents. So, there's a lot less of us in the whole, community. And if you think about it, like even in Louisville, which is, we're a 1.3 million person metro area. There's probably about, 200 commercial agents. And those are the ones who really transact, the ones who are actually in the market active. You're looking at like 70 or 80 probably. So, and I'm maybe in Denver, it's maybe a multiple higher or whatever, but even then it's still a very small and tight knit community. So if you can be that one person that people think of, you're not really competing against a significant number of people. So, I think it lends itself to that, and that, if you control that personal brand, you can be that top of mind figure. And again, all it takes is that one person to call you, and then you got an opportunity.
And the amazing thing about commercial real estate is that when you transact something, you can't transact anything bigger than property, right? Land, buildings, whatever. You can't sell anything bigger. So you only need a couple heavy leads a year to have a really strong year. And so that's something I love about commercial real estate, is like, it could be 2 deals in a year that make my whole year. And it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. My broker last year, he did a 50 unit apartment building, and it sold for like $3.3 million, and he bookended the deal. So like, what does that mean for, a commission check? That's like what people, more than most people make in a year, he made in one transaction. And that's just through that opportunity. And again, he's been in the business for 20 years. So, he has those relationships ingrained in the community. So he's able to kind of leverage that into these large opportunities. But if you're willing to commit yourself to the industry and become one of those top professionals, you can make some serious money in the brokerage space. So
for sure.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, and this is more so towards, the business owner side, because we do have business owners that listen to this podcast, and they're not only are they obviously focused on their business, but they're maybe considering utilizing, commercial real estate, not only for their business, but as an investment tool as well. So one thing I wanted to ask was related to, what are some of the things that business owners need to consider before securing warehouse space? Because I think that would be helpful.
Big things to consider before getting a warehouse: access. I have seen warehouses where the point of the warehouse is to back up a semi truck to the warehouse. It's built for it. That's the point of the property, but there's no parking. There's nowhere to drive a truck. So people will buy properties that they can't use for what they need. It blows my mind. So one, access. Make sure you can get your trucks in. Make sure somebody else can get their trucks in, because maybe you can get your box truck in, but you need a bigger space. You're going to rent it out to somebody, and your next users can't get their trucks in. So access is huge. Location, in terms of for industrial location, is different. We look for access to highways. We want easy access north, south, east, west. And then ceiling height. The higher the ceilings, the better. In the 50s or 60s, they built a bunch of 10 to 12 foot clear warehouses. And there's a place and a need for those. But if you can find a warehouse with a higher ceiling, you're only expanding the possibilities. So parking, truck access, location, ceiling height. And then obviously, if you can mitigate your risk by having a multi-tenant building, that is always a very, very strong way to hedge against issues that will arise in the future.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We call it the house hacking strategy for, commercial real estate. And I've kind of pitched the idea to several of my business owner clients and friends. And, it's definitely a unique strategy where you can buy a building, as long as you occupy a portion of it and then lease out the rest. It could be a unique opportunity for you to be able to capitalize on the cash flow and help your tenants pay your mortgage. So it helps with the bottom line of your business as well. And the SBA has these products that, as long as you occupy 51% of the space, you can qualify for lower down payments as low as 10%, longer amortization periods, usually pretty competitive interest rates as well. So, there's a lot of ways you can structure it so that you can acquire these multi-tenant centers and then be able to, occupy your business within them. And, I kind of also want to mention regarding, the ceiling height piece, the functional obsolescence in particular with, an industrial warehouse space. I mean, there's a lot of characteristics of a building that could make the use or the potential user base for that building not feasible. So like you said, the ceiling height piece, there's only probably not as many tenants nowadays that are comfortable or want to have a warehouse space that only has 10-foot ceilings or 12-foot ceilings, because it's just not as functional as it was once was. So.
Oh yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Go ahead, Aviva.
Oh no. What you were saying about hacking for
house hacking for commercial real estate. Yeah.
I talked to so many owners who operated their business in a warehouse in the 80s and bought it for nothing, and then sold their business, and the warehouse is their retirement plan. And it's so common. These guys don't need, it's a very, very lucrative strategy. And it makes a lot of sense, especially with the SBA in the past 2 years during the pandemic. It's been giving it out. So if you're able to take advantage of that and literally just hold on to the product, once you pay off your loan, it's just like printing cash, and forget your 401k. You don't need it in that case, but it's still good to have.
Oh man, I mean, I just leased up a space. I was representing on the lease side. I was representing a client. It's like a B2B business for convenience stores. So they sell like all the bulk products to convenience stores in the area. And they just leased out 10,000 square foot of warehouse space in this multi-tenant building. The gentleman owned I can't remember what he had a linens business for, different types of users across the city. And he paid off this building. It has 3 or 4 tenants in it, and they're each paying like $6,000 a month. He's got like 3 bays that are $10,000. They're each paying like $6,000 a month. And he's in his, individual unit paying nothing. And the building's been paid off for years. So imagine and it's triple net. This is a triple net property. So he doesn't pay taxes or insurance or anything. So it's like, man, this guy bought it in the 90s or whatever, and now it's all fully paid off. And that he could literally just tomorrow say, you know what, I don't really want to deal with this anymore. I can lease up my space and get another $6,000 a month out of that one. So I think it's important that people hear that message, because it is a very valuable strategy for sure.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. So I'm really curious, particular, it can be in Denver or just how you see the market, particularly the industrial market, like where you see it going because of COVID and a lot of our ups and downs right now. So can you enlighten us with your your vision of the future?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. Like I don't know. Trust me. I have this conversation daily, specifically with my old man. Dad was buying warehouses for $30 a foot. And I say that he's emotionally damaged now because everything's $200 a foot plus.
Yeah,
I'm seeing stuff go on the market for $300 a foot, and we're scratching our heads, going like, there has to be some sort of threshold, and we're not finding it yet. And the thing is, back to what I was talking about, they're just not building these small buildings because it costs too much to build them, and they're just going to keep building these mega warehouses. This is my prediction for the future. In the next 5 years, you are going to see a ton more mega warehouses along your highways. I refer to these properties as big sexies because they're these huge, gorgeous, 36-foot ceiling warehouses. You're going to start seeing them all around your highways, and very, very similar to that Amazon one, but it's going to be Home Depot, Costco, and so many more. So
yeah. Well, they just built, there was a developer in town who just built a warehouse for Zappos, and it was like 1 million square foot. I think it was 1 million. It was like 500,000 or 1 million square foot warehouse. And I mean, Zappos signed like a long-term lease. So if you're the developer of that building, you're probably sitting pretty, long-term. It's crazy. And Amazon too, like you were mentioning, I mean, Amazon, they're projecting like stupid growth over the next 5 years, and rightfully so, because history indicates that's been what they've been doing before. So, there was an industrial warehouse north of us in Indiana that I think that Amazon's developing right now for, I think, 1 million square feet. So again, same thing. If you're the developer of that opportunity, I mean, you're sitting pretty for a long period of time. So
I think they're saying in these Amazon warehouses, it takes people 20 minutes to get to the bathroom because they're so big. I'm just like, oh my God, how ridiculous is that? But it works for them. And
well, now, I mean, so one of my best friends is he works at Amazon, and he's a launch manager. So he's responsible for launching these warehouses across the world. And he's in Europe right now. He's one of the senior people at Amazon for launching warehouses all across Europe. And the majority of the warehouses, they typically were the 1 million square foot warehouses that incorporated a lot of manpower, but now they're shifting to robotics. So a lot of those robotics warehouses are actually smaller because you don't need nearly as much space, because the robots are able to do a lot of things more efficiently. They're on rails, so they're able to do things a lot more, seamlessly. So it's kind of interesting to see. I think that's obviously the trend that's going to happen, is you're going to start seeing a lot more of these robotics warehouses, and the people who are typically in the Amazon warehouses servicing, packing everything, picking everything, et cetera. That's going to be phased out over the next probably 10 or 20 years. So.
Oh yeah. This is like me really nerding out in the industrial space, but what's interesting about, we're working on some land sales, that all this land that was originally destined for residential is now destined for industrial. And what I'm noticing is in retail and multifamily, you want to consolidate and build up. Well, that's not reality in the industrial space. And what I love about industrial is, especially with these buildings with hundreds of employees, they need, just the footprint of the property has to be massive to park all your 100 employees, to bring in 50 semi-trailers. Just the sheer amount of ground these warehouses need is unbelievable. And I love it.
Well, you do the math, right? It's like, 1 acre of land is 43,000 square feet. So if you think about it, I think for a development standpoint, you need about, 50% for the building ratio. That could be even smaller. So, you need, if you do 43,000 times 25 will give you roughly 1 million square feet. And that's 25 acres. So you actually need 50 acres to develop a 1 million square foot building. So imagine that. And then you're starting to see these. I mean, again, there's large industrial developers, even locally, where they buy these 200, 300 acre tracts of land and build these parks where it's like they got maybe 1 or 2 million square foot building, and then they have like the 250 square foot, the 150 square foot buildings, et cetera. And so, yeah, it's crazy. And the demand just keeps going. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they're spec, a lot of these are spec builds. Like they're just saying, okay, the demand's going to be there because they can, look at the market and see the absorption and say, okay, well, we know for a fact that this is going to be something that could be occupied within this time frame. And it's just amazing. I find it fascinating. Really.
Oh yeah. I mean, the only thing holding us back is like the logistics crisis, literally.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we're full force. I mean, I know the demand isn't slowing down, so hopefully we can catch up as far as the supply is concerned, and we can get back to, not having to deal with our toilet paper, shortages, right? So
yeah.
I don't know if y'all are experiencing this right now. The Denver buyer market is absolutely brutal, to the point where and there's so much 1031 money circulating right now.
Yeah.
People selling their retail, people selling their office and wanting to go into an easier product type. And when the property comes on the market that day, the brokers got LOIs sight unseen in the first hour.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so just a new reality, a new world that we're living in, and we're still at the very, very beginning of it. Just the secret's out a little bit.
No, and it'll evolve. I think, again, as you start developing more and more of these properties, we'll start to equalize a little bit as far as that is concerned. So hopefully, because otherwise, you're right, it's gonna be nuts, and I can't imagine it's gonna maintain itself at this level where you're getting those ridiculous offers where no one's even wanting to see the property, just like give me the property, I don't care what it is, because we have 10 days left to identify, and we got to get this deal done, otherwise I'm gonna have to pay Uncle Sam a significant amount of money. So that makes sense. So one of the things I wanted to talk about with you in particular is because of your significant presence on TikTok and other social media sites. I mean, and I'm a big advocate for building a personal brand digitally and in general. So we're heavy into, YouTube. We've Jeff and I have a local meetup that we run. We also record different virtual meetups and such. So I kind of want to pick your brain on your experiences in the digital space, primarily on the TikTok route, and obviously whatever other media platforms you're on as well. So could you kind of give us some advice, or maybe give some other people some advice regarding those social media platforms?
Absolutely. So I think about this all the time. You go on LinkedIn, okay, and you see broker content. Broker content is garbage. Nobody is worse at marketing than brokers. Okay. What is broker content? Numbers, volume. This is on the market. I sold this. I'm better than you. Me. This property. Nobody, I don't know if we're allowed to cuss here, gives a shit. Exactly. Nobody gives a shit about your volume, because we all know you paid 80% of it to other people. It doesn't matter. It makes you feel good posting it, but nobody cares, right? I obsess over, how do I feel as a consumer? What do I want to see? What consumers want to see, specifically in commercial real estate, is valuable information. They just want to learn. With this, our industry is so gate kept. People know nothing about it. I have met people on TikTok who didn't even know that you could buy a property, rent it, and make money. Like, people don't know anything about this industry, and there is a need and a want to learn. So the whole thing is like, get over your ego. Nobody cares about what you have closed, and provide people valuable information, and they will want to consume your content, and they will come to you.
100%. And one of the counter arguments that everyone makes is like, oh, like the people who are buying these properties aren't on TikTok, or they aren't on YouTube, or they aren't on these other places. But what I counter with back in saying is saying, look, this is a long tail business, right? There's going to be one of the largest wealth transfers over the next decade or 15 years, with the baby boomers transferring over to the millennial generation and Gen Z, et cetera. So who are really going to be the decision makers in the next 10 to 15 years? The people who are consuming all this content right now. So getting ahead of the curve when it comes to this sort of thing is priceless when it comes to your business. And so when I hear people who, again, the reason why they say these things is because they don't want to do it. They don't want to deal with it because, they maybe have had their success in their career or whatever else. And that there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's very unwise for people to not really consider the ramifications of not doing what you're doing today, because I think, again, it's going to serve you well decades in the future. And that's really what we're in the business for. We're in it for the long haul. So
TikTok is a geo-local app. Mm-hmm. What that means is you put out a piece of content and it starts in your city and then it goes out. Like it's like shooting fish in a bucket. The marketing anything, literally anything, is about attention. How do you get attention? How do you maximize your attention? It is hard with TikTok in the commercial real estate space. However, it still works. My best friend is a residential broker. I was at a showing the other day and my client was late. I hop on live. Okay, I'm on TikTok live, and somebody pops in the live and says, do you have a residential broker recommendation in Denver? Yup, Leah, call Leah. Leah, she does my transactions. I refer everybody to her. And they met this morning for a listing in Denver. And that's not the first time Leah has closed deals from my referrals. Okay, so I answer somebody's text and then I get a check a couple months later for a stupid amount of money for the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like find warehouse owners on TikTok, but it's like find the attention and the revenue and it will come back to you. And it's a long-term perspective, right? It's not the short term. Commercial real estate is not a short-term game in any respect. If you want to be a successful broker, long game. If you want to be a successful owner, long game. There's nothing short about it. So when it comes to marketing, it's exactly what you're saying. I am aware I am marketing for 10 years from now. And the reality is there's this thing, I think it's called like millennialification, where, okay, you're right. My target demographic of like 45-year-old plus men, right? They're not always on social media. I always joke that my target demo are the last people not on social media. However, they do this thing where they ask their kids to find the broker, and the kid goes, and who's the person that the kid's going to call? The first person they found on TikTok yelling about it.
Oh man. Yeah. I have a story for you just similar to this, is that I had a gentleman call me from Hawaii, and him and his dad sold 240 units in Houston, Texas. And he actually found me in Louisville because he was looking at the middle of the country and he was researching Louisville as a potential market. He found me on YouTube and he saw a few of my videos, and then he gave me a call and he said, "Hey, by the way, we just sold this apartment building in Houston and we're looking for, triple net investment property in Louisville. And we're in the 4 to 12 million range." And it's like, okay, so now it's like an opportunity for me. Granted, he may be looking or talking to other brokers in other markets, but that, again, we would never have had that conversation had we not pushed out something on a YouTube platform or, the podcast format or whatever. And I can't stress enough, like, the transfer of wealth that is going to occur over the next decade, 15 years, is immense. And those individuals who are going to be the beneficiaries of that are our generation. So the ones who consume content today will remember you 10 years from now, because if you continue to push out content, you're going to be so ingrained in their mind, they're not going to call anyone else. They're just going to be like, "Man, I've been watching this guy's videos or this gal's videos for, a decade or however long. And I'm subscribed to their channel. I get notifications every day from them every time they push out new content." They're going to call you, guaranteed. So
the funny thing about commercial real estate and brokerages is that it's generally run by older men, right? And these guys crush it and they know how to do it in their way that they did it, right? And so you have all these big brokerages that are operating the same way they operated 10 years ago, we'll say, with a little more internet presence. Anyway, the young brokers who come into these brokerages have no leverage, have no money, and have no ability to do anything with the marketing. So all they can do is just keep trucking along with the old school way. My whole thing in our brokerage was my dad was like, "Go figure it out." First day of work, dropped a phone book on my desk and said, "Figure it out." And it gave me the opportunity I just had to start experimenting and marketing myself. And the only way I knew how to was on the internet. So it's this insane situation with these big brokerages having all the control, but not wanting to change. And it's 100% to their loss. And then the young guns in those having no control. And it's created this insane opportunity for, honestly, just like the people in the middle, like you and me, who are like, notice the power of the internet, and then can use it and leverage it. And that's not to say a young person couldn't do that themselves, but when you have a big Cushman Wakefield just giving you leads and telling you to dial, it's not even a thought.
Yeah, definitely. No, I couldn't agree more.
I kind of wanted to jump off. I know it's still in the commercial sector, but I'm a commercial general contractor. So social media for me has actually been exploding just for what Raphael and I do together. I'm just getting calls from general contractors from other states just wanting to talk to see what's going on and experience. And then they've been sending like, they're working on, say, a franchise in their state, and they're like, well, I think it's coming your way. So we actually been working together for me to get involved with the same franchise, but now within our state. So social media is completely changing, I think, the game and how the future will go. And then I wanted to also say that technology alone in our sector, I just wanted to tell a quick story here, is I went to a job bid at a university. I was number 6 out of all the GCs that were there to bid this project. I'm the only one that had an iPad walking around and making notes and doing all my digital stuff, looking at the blueprints that they sent, and everyone else had a clipboard with paperwork and actual paper, flipping through and going through all this stuff. So I'm like, and then I'm looking at the guy from the university that's running the show here, and he also is a younger guy. And so he's looking at me because he has an iPad and I have an iPad. So we're sending emails back and forth literally in this meeting, like of questions and stuff, while all these other guys are just like taking notes with their pen and paper. And it just, to me, it just, like Raphael was saying earlier, and you said, Aviva, is that the landscape is changing because there's all these older people that are in commercial. So like so I'm in a commercial general contracting. And so majority of them, I want to say the minimum for commercial GCs is like 55. I mean, like they're 55 and above, like, and they're walking in, and of course they have all this experience, but just not on the social media side and how it's changing. So, but yeah, that's it's kind of funny that you guys you're experiencing the same thing on, the broker side and the sales and everything. So, and speaking of that, one of the questions that we like to ask every guest that comes on, just to kind of see what they've been reading lately, is what are one of the most impactful books that you've actually read? And it could be something that you read 10 years ago, but maybe it changed the trajectory of your career path or just how you live your life, or is there one that stands out for you?
Yeah, I got 2. One, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
I don't know.
Dale Carnegie, Game Changer.
Dale Carnegie. Yeah.
Game Changer.
That book teaches you how to deal with people, how to work with people, how to essentially manipulate the situation
Yeah.
to get people to work with you. So that book is huge to understand just maximizing human interaction. Second one, Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk, which teaches you, back to my thing about the broker content. The whole concept of jab, 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 right hook is give, 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 ask. So the way that to properly market, the way to properly get leads is to just relentlessly give so much that eventually when you do ask or when you go for the sale, you've provided that person so much value on the other side, they wouldn't say no or use anybody else. And so combining those in business has been valuable to me. The more you give, the more you get. And people do not understand that.
Oh, yeah, there's this book called Give and Take by Adam Grant. He's a professor at UPenn, and he talks about how the givers tend to outlast the people who just take all the time, because from a reputation standpoint, you can act like a genuine person and then take from just so many people before people start talking. I mean, again, it's a relatively small community when it comes to the commercial real estate space. So if you screw enough people over, you better believe you're going to start building this reputation where people are just like, I don't want to deal with this individual. So, being a giver, but also understanding when to say no as well. That's something that a lot of people, don't know how to do. And that's something that I struggled with a while back as well, is that, you can't just always give, because then you become that kind of martyr individual. But in reality, if you learn to give without expecting anything in return, then, the magic really happens at that point over a period of time. So
something I do is I have a emailer that goes out every Wednesday called Warehouse Wednesday. Goes out to to warehouse users, warehouse owners. The whole thing with the email is value add content. So people want to read it. I think about the emails that I read. The real estate journals locally that have cool information. I look forward to reading that because it has valuable information. My whole thing was, okay, I need to create that. And as a result, these owners, they read my Warehouse Wednesday, and then it's just reply to the email, hey, meet me at this property. I want to sell, lease, whatever. And it's it's a very, very effective way to get leads.
That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. I have to incorporate some form of newsletter or something. I have not yet done that. I do a lot on the, the digital side, and then send out the digital content via email, but doing something like a newsletter could be of value too, for sure.
If you ever need it, I'll show you the ninja hack to scraping emails off of CoStar, but that's for another day.
Okay. Well, we'll be in touch about that. That's pretty game changing. That's awesome. Well, Aviva, we greatly appreciate your time. Again, we understand you're very busy in Denver with this active market. So we are just really blessed that you've been able to take some time today to share some of your insights. One of the things we ask our guests at the end of the podcast is to ask to contribute something to what we call the commercial real estate treasure chest. It's a repository of resources that we make available to our audience. That is really, you can pretty much contribute anything. We've had people contribute PDFs, ebooks, Excel sheets, really anything that you think would be of value to our audience. So I just want to give you an opportunity. What are you willing to contribute today?
I would love to give you my due diligence checklist. This is the 4-page document that every time we buy a property gets filled out in its entirety. It is an extensive pain in the butt, but if you fill it out, it'll save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because you need to do your due diligence when you buy property. Big mistakes can happen, and a lot of money can be lost. So this document will help you not have that issue.
That's awesome. That's game changing too. I mean, and you're right. I mean, especially when you're talking about some of these larger assets. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars is probably the low end of what you can mess up if something happens. So I'm sure that's going to save our audience a significant amount of time and resources as well. So
yeah, I really appreciate y'all reaching out to me and having me on the podcast. And I think what you're doing in terms of like podcast, YouTube is brilliant, and the future in terms of marketing commercial real estate, point blank.
For sure. And again, I want to say thank you for coming on. I know I gained a lot, especially on the warehouse side of things, listening and learning from you. And I know more and more people are going to want to ask you more questions. So how would you like them to get in contact with you in the future? And maybe, maybe a deal will come your way through it. So that's the whole point of this. So
yeah. You can follow me on TikTok at Real Estate Source, or email me, Aviva, Aviva, at warehousehotline.com.
That's awesome. No, and we'll include both her TikTok handle, which you should definitely follow. She produces phenomenal content, and also her email in the description below. So if you guys are watching this in a YouTube format, it's going to be in the description. But if you guys are also listening to this, maybe in an Apple podcast or Spotify format, it's also going to be in the description as well. So again, thank you all for tuning in today. If you guys are listening to this in an Apple podcast or Spotify format, we would greatly appreciate if you could leave a 5-star review. We've seen a significant uptick in our downloads as a result of you guys engaging with the podcast and leaving a 5-star review. So we would greatly appreciate if you could do so as well. Just take a few seconds and leave us a 5-star review. It would mean the world to us. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. It ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.